Hey y'all, it's Nat. I'm back. It's been a while. I decided to kind of take it easy with content creation last year just because, in addition to all of the health issues, I was also getting ready for a move for like the first half of the year. And then the second half of the year was moving and getting settled, and I'm still not completely settled. I don't know if you can tell, but I don't have bookshelves. I just have my physical TBR stacked up in piles next to me. Some books that I've already read, and yeah, no bookshelves yet. So this is what it's gonna be for a bit. But yeah, I am about to make some changes to my medication regimen, my treatment for my migraine. And change always brings difficulty with the adjustment. So I'm gonna try and bulk film some videos before that happens. Today we are going to be talking about my bookish buzzwords. I'm not sure if y'all will get much like 2023 wrap-up content from me. If you do, it might be on Instagram. I don't know yet. I've been like procrastinating making videos because I'm like, I gotta do all the 2023 wrap-up stuff, and I don't really want to. Like 2023 was a pretty good year for me, like numbers wise, but like pretty mid in terms of like my overall reading enjoyment. So I'm not too excited about talking about. There are still some books that I do want to talk about, but again, I think I'm gonna leave that for Instagram. I don't know yet. Y'all will know when I know, okay? But yeah, today we're just gonna talk about my bookish buzzwords. And I did want to give credit to Jessie from Jessie on YouTube. I got this idea from one of their like Patreon exclusive video options way back last year, like around this time last year, I think. So this one's been on my mind for a while, and I wanted this to be the first video that I did. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so I have my notes off to the side on my laptop to keep me on track. So if the lighting's weird, that's why, again, still settling in here. But yeah, I thought we would start with some of my favorite tropes. Okay, so let's just start with the ever popular enemies to lovers trope. It is indeed one of my bookish buzzwords. It never gets old for me, but particularly within the sci-fi fantasy genre. It's a lot harder to pull off in like a contemporary romance setting. I feel like we talk about this a lot within the community because it's not just enemies to lovers. It's enemies to reluctant allies, to begrudging respect, to like, you know, a budding friendship, and then into a romantic relationship. Those are the best. And they're a lot easier to pull off with like the external high stakes that we often see in sci-fi and fantasy. Whereas in a contemporary romance setting, it never really seems like they were ever enemies, like they ever truly hated each other. They just like kind of didn't like each other, and that's not really enemies to lovers. Or like if they did really hate each other, it was based off of like some minor miscommunication. If they just spent a few minutes, even just a little bit of time, said anything, they could have resolved the entire issue. Or they're like so awful and mean to one another that it's really hard to understand how they could ever have a healthy romantic relationship. I will say academic rivals to lovers, even better, no matter the genre. I will always love it. There's I believe Outdrawn, I believe that's the one I'm thinking of, is like an academic rivals to lovers. It's a sapphic academic rivals to lovers, and I've been hearing such wonderful things about it. I really, really need to read this book. If not by the end of this month, then sometime in April, because this is like top of my romance TBR. I'm really excited to get into this one. And the cover's gorgeous. Anyway, I've harped on enough about these tropes, but enemies to lovers, specifically in sci-fi fantasy, academic rivals to lovers, always any genre, I don't care. I'll take it. Okay, so the next trope that I love is friends to lovers. Yeah, I'm not an either or kind of person. I like both of these tropes. I do tend to prefer enemies to lovers in SFF and friends to lovers in contemporary romance settings. I don't know what it is about friends to lovers in SFF. I tend to find it very boring. I don't know why. I think I just prefer the angst of an enemies to lovers arc in speculative fiction, or even just like two characters who don't know each other at all at the beginning of the story having to build a partnership from scratch and see where that takes them. I tend to prefer that in SFF. I like to see hard-earned trust happening. And I feel like when it's friends to lovers in SFF, the trust has already been earned. Maybe I get some flashbacks to that, but it's already there, and that bores me. Whereas in contemporary romance settings, I feel like we have the time to really watch the discovery that comes with a new context for a pre-existing relationship. I find it very interesting to see how a relationship changes when it goes from platonic to romantic. And I also like to see like what about the friendship wasn't so platonic, like what were maybe some signs that there was more to the relationship. However, I don't usually love if the friends to lovers arc features like a long-term unrequited crush. Like one of the characters was in love with the other for years and it's only just now that the other character is interested in them in that way. The execution of it for me usually ends up being that I don't feel like their friendship was on equal footing, and therefore in the transition to a romantic relationship, I don't feel like the romantic relationship is on equal footing either. And so I tend to get hung up on that, and I'm not a fan. I don't necessarily think that like it can't be done well in theory. Like I'm sure, actually, when I was originally taking notes for this video, I had just read a fanfic that pulled it off in a way that I was like, okay, they've really, yeah, the friendship wasn't on equal footing, but they worked on it and the romantic relationship ended up being on equal footing. I don't know what that fanfiction was, and I know for a fact I did not save it because I am a dummy and I never save the fanfiction that I like really, really love to reread later, and I just lose them. They're lost in the deep abyss of AO3. When I was younger, I would make the effort to like try and find them, to like reread every fanfiction trying to find it. Memory of a Goldfish, like I could never find it any other way. I'm guessing the fanfiction that I read was like a Colin and Penelope from Bridgerton fanfiction. I don't know which one it is, and I know I didn't save it, and I'm really bummed about that. Sorry for the tangent. Point is, I've yet to read a book that executes the long-term unrequited crush to finally these two are together in a way that is just satisfactory to me personally. Let's move on to the next trope. Okay, y'all, fake dating. Never gets old for me. This is the fanfiction reader in me, okay? My love for the fake dating trope started with fanfiction. I would read basically the same fanfiction over and over and over again with different characters. Like it was all the same, and I never got tired of it. This is purely a nostalgia trope for me. I think that's why it's so enduring. But yeah, like they're so convinced at the beginning that they don't actually want to date. They just really need something, and the only way they can get it is if they pretend to date. And by the end, the little idiots, they realize they actually make a great couple and they live happily ever after. I love it forever. Alrighty, y'all. Last one for the trope category, and it's second chance romance. I feel like this doesn't need a whole lot of explanation considering what I've already said I love in a romantic arc, but a relationship that's fallen apart and needs to be rebuilt, I'll love it forever. I love it forever. Obviously, only if it's like a healthy relationship. Like no need to try and rebuild something that's just not working, you know, because that happens sometimes in books where that person was just a piece of shit and never really deserved a second chance. So other than that, I love this trope though. The next category of buzzwords has to do with settings. So ocean, seaside town, small island settings, anything to do with water, basically. Mermaids, pirates would fall under that ocean setting, so those are buzzwords too. My Pisces sun heart loves water themes and motifs, so yeah. Water's my element. It always has been. I'm at my most creative when I'm in the water. I remember in college, anytime I'd be like writing scripts and I get stuck, I would just go take a shower and I'd be able to work through the problem in my head by the time I was done. And then also it got me in trouble a lot as a kid because I was a swimmer. And anytime I was at the front of the lane, I would lose track of what lap we were on because I was too busy daydreaming. So yeah, that used to get me in trouble. Anyways, the point is, I love water themes, love water magic. That's a whole category of buzzwords in and of itself, I guess. The other like setting related buzzword for me is anything that's set in Italy or like in an Italian inspired setting. I'm Italian American. I still have family in Italy. They live in Rome and I speak Italian. I don't get to go very often. I haven't been since I was 12. I was supposed to go in the summer of 2020. I was supposed to study abroad and take painting classes in Florence. I'm still very bitter that that did not end up happening, but I'll get to go back hopefully relatively soon, but it's gonna depend a lot, I think, on the health situation. So, but yeah, if I can't be there for real, then I'd like to pretend to be there or in a setting that is inspired by Italy. So the next category is going to be like world building elements, I guess, for sci-fi and fantasy, because that is the majority of what I read. So first up we have elemental magic, which I feel like anybody who loves Avatar: The Last Airbender would put this on their buzzwords list too. Even people who don't would probably. It's a popular magic system, but I do love Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that certainly plays a role in this making the list of buzzwords. Also, the whole love anything to do with water. Water's an element. So yeah, I just love, like, you know, building a relationship and a connection with the elements of the world we live in, or I guess the characters live in. Okay, like celestial magic, astrology related stories are also a buzzword for me. I believe The Conductors by Nicole Glover has some form of celestial magic. It's on my TBR. I really gotta get to this one. Jessie from Jessie on YouTube recommended this one to me ages ago, and I still haven't gotten to it just because it's not on my physical TBR. But you know what? We need to rectify that. It should be on my physical TBR. But yeah, I feel like I don't tend to come across celestial magic all that often in fantasy, and I would like to see more of it. So if any of y'all have recommendations besides The Conductors, let me know down in the comments. I also love tarot, or, you know, any form of cartomancy. I believe The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. I don't think it's tarot. I think it's like a tarot inspired, like it's some like made up form of cartomancy that is a big part of that story from what I have heard. So I'm very interested to get to that series. But another one that's not, I feel like, super common. What is Evocations gonna have anything to do with tarot? By S.T. Gibson. That's an upcoming 2024 release that a lot of people are excited about. Okay, dragons and animal companions are also big buzzwords for me. I love animals. I love dragons, especially water dragons. Nobody's surprised by that at this point. I like fire dragons too. I may be a Pisces sun, but I actually do have a lot of fire in my chart, and I am a Leo rising. So, but yeah, I'm partial to water creatures, but I'll take any creature. I love them all. The last category of buzzwords is just going to be miscellaneous buzzwords, because I don't want to keep coming up with more categories. So the first miscellaneous buzzword is anything to do with linguistics or languages. I could do a whole video about my lifelong interest in linguistics and my relationship to language as somebody who grew up partially deaf, because those two things are very much entwined. But I've always found languages to just be so fascinating. And so I really love when like language is an important part of the narrative, whether that's to focus on linguistics or, you know, just any other language besides English being like prominently featured within the story, or a fictional language being featured in the story that somebody made up for their fantasy world. All of that I find really fun, and I will annotate about it. Next up, morally gray characters. I don't know, I kind of feel like this comes with the territory of being an SFF fan. It's a common thing to see in the genre. I love an anti-hero, love an anti-villain. It's just always interesting to see some kind of conflict of morality going on, and seeing how things get tangled up in the gray areas always makes for an interesting story. I also love family dynamics, but I especially love sibling dynamics. I have an older brother who I am very close with. We are pretty far apart in age, but close. Like, our birthdays are really close together, and we always would celebrate our birthdays together growing up. So I love seeing like an older brother, younger sibling dynamic. But I also love, I feel like I've been reading a lot of like sisters recently, and I'm close with my sister-in-law too. That's obviously a different dynamic, but yeah, I love seeing sisters as well, and I have been seeing sisters a lot in the books I've been reading recently. So yeah, always love sibling dynamics. I like complicated family dynamics too, like not necessarily, like it doesn't have to be that they're close, it's just nice and like a warm fuzzy feeling for me when I'm reminded of my relationship with my brother. The next buzzword is pretty broad, and it's retelling. I was about to say that I like any retelling, but that's not true. I'm gonna do an anti-buzzword video. What's the opposite of a buzzword? Is it anti-buzzword? Snooze words? I don't know. I'm clearly not good at this. Let me know down in the comments if y'all have any ideas. But I'm gonna do like an anti-buzzwords video next, so keep an eye out for that. And there are some source material that I don't really care for in retelling. So yeah, stay tuned for that, I guess. But I will say, I'm always interested in any retelling of source material that I am not familiar with, because I like learning about new source material, or new to me source material, and seeing what a new author's take is on it. But in terms of like source material that I am familiar with, I'm trying to think. I love a Hades and Persephone retelling. Those are always interesting. I don't know if I have like a go-to recommendation for that though. I don't think I've read one that I feel particularly attached to, which is, I mean, I love Hadestown, so, which is a musical. If you aren't familiar with it, highly recommend checking out the soundtrack, because it's kind of like Hamilton in that like the entire story is set to music. So there is like more like spoken word dialogue, but it is set to music. So like the soundtrack is the entire story. There is a certain level of, and it's an Orpheus and Eurydice retelling, so that's fun. I did read the Whispering Dark, was it a couple years ago now? That was an Orpheus and Eurydice retelling, so that's another buzzword for me. But yeah, so Hades and Persephone, always a buzzword. Orpheus and Eurydice are a recent buzzword solely because of Hadestown. So again, highly recommend that soundtrack. I love a Cinderella retelling. Cinderella was one of my favorite like Disney princesses growing up, so I'll always give that a go. Ooh, 12 Dancing Princesses. I've only ever come across one 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and that was House of Salt and Sorrows, which I read last year. Also really loved. If any of y'all have heard of other ones, let me know. I do have my own idea for a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, so that's in the works, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah, those are all the retellings that I can think of off the top of my head that are big buzzwords for me. So those are all of my bookish buzzwords that I could think of, at least. If I think of more, maybe at some point in the future I'll do another video. Let me know down in the comments what some of your bookish buzzwords are. But that's it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos from me, make sure to click that subscribe button as well. Currently, the plan is to try and just do one video a week, and then if I'm feeling more up to it, then to up it to a couple videos a week. But we shall see how the next month or so shapes up to be in terms of like this med change that I'm about to go on. So my body's like very sensitive to any kind of change, so I'll keep y'all posted on Instagram probably. So yeah, but that's it for today's video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.